Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook and Instagram as well. I want to get to these comments from Baker Mayfield, who is not shy when it comes to the media. He's not shy about letting anybody know how he feels about anything, honestly, especially when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Lest I remind people that Kirk Herbstreit was the one who said that his mentality would be embraced by the city of Cleveland. And I think that the more this goes on, the more we're beginning to see exactly what he means. There's a lot of layers to all this. Let's get to it. First of all, I want to give you some direct quotes from Baker Mayfield here, just to kind of set the tone for this. Baker Mayfield recently said in an interview concerning Duke Johnson, reiterating the fact that he wanted to be traded, quote, "You're either on this train or you're not." He went on to say, "It's self-inflicted. It is what it is. It's not awkward for anyone else in this building." Freddie Kitchens, their head coach, went on to say, "I've said numerous times, no disrespect to you guys, but the media creating something more than it is, it was just a comment." Freddie Kitchens continued, "He wants to be traded, you know. I want to win the lottery, all right? So it doesn't matter. He's a Cleveland Brown. He's under contract. He's going to be used to the best of his ability and what benefits the team, and that's what we're going with. As far as the media-driven controversies, there's no controversy on our team." Now, I'm going to say yes and no to that. First of all, I reported on this a while back, and, I'm not really sure what the situation is. Duke Johnson wants to be traded. That's pretty much all there is to it. Maybe he wants to go somewhere where he feels that maybe his talents could be used at a better capacity. I can tell you this. Since 2015, when he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, he's had 299 carries for 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's cumulative. Of course, then again, they ended up getting Nick Chubb. Now there's Kareem Hunt, who, given his set of circumstances, will not be playing for the first 8 weeks in the NFL. Who knows what the issue is? What I do know is simply this. First of all, when it comes to the comments of Baker Mayfield, you're on this train or you're not, the thing that I would always say is that I've always felt that internally teams should be dealing with things on their own. I don't think it's something that needs to be outspoken necessarily. I've always said that the locker room is a sacred place where guys can say things to each other, and it doesn't have to be publicized. I've always believed that. You take a look at the New England Patriots, they are a perfect example of keeping your lips sealed. Take a look at that situation with Josh McDaniels a couple of seasons ago when he was supposed to take over as the head coach for the New York Jets and backed out the day that they were going to announce him. The day that they had a media press conference ready to announce Josh McDaniels, the word was as he walked into the New England Patriots facility, and when he came back out, he was no longer a part of the Jets organization, that he was going to stay in New England. I said right then and there that we will probably never know why Josh McDaniels decided not to be the head football coach of the New York Jets. And I also went on to say, do we really need to know? That was the question that I proposed. Not everything is a need-to-know basis for the masses, that is. It was a choice that he made and a decision that he's clearly stood by because he has yet to lead the New England Patriots. So when it comes to being in the locker room, I do think that it is a place where players should be able to get along. There was an interview earlier with Jarvis Landry where he said that he was okay with Duke Johnson and that he was okay with a lot of his teammates and he was just glad to be playing with his best friend, Odell Beckham Jr., and that guys who want to be there, hopefully they'll be there, and guys who don't want to be there, hopefully they'll be able to be where they want to be, and that all sides will come to an agreement. And that's a statement that I can definitely get behind. I think that's the right way to approach it. There is the antithesis, though, and that is Baker Mayfield, long ago, when Hugh Jackson was there as a head coach, drew a line in the sand. He drew a line in the sand and said, oh, you want to go back to a rival team? And then, of course, remember, there was him staring him down on the sideline when they scored that touchdown against the Bengals. He took it real personally, just like he's taking it personally now with Duke Johnson. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here, then don't be here. But if you are going to be here, he went on to say, you need to do your part. And that is work really hard. That's the mentality of Baker Mayfield. And though I don't necessarily agree with the approach, I do agree with the mentality. I agree with the mentality because we have long since forgotten that football is a competitive game. You know, it's amazing to me that we often complain about guys getting along. You know, we always talk about rivalries back in the 80s and 90s, you know, and 60s and 70s where supposedly these guys hated each other. That was never really the case. Did you know that? It was never really the case. I'll never forget, I interviewed cornerback for the Oakland Raiders one time, nicknamed The Hammer, who said that those guys would all go out drinking together on Saturday and then they would kick each other's ass on Sunday. That was basically an exact quote from him. And I even asked him what brought him back to Kansas City because he was in town for a Comic-Con feature that was out there. And he said it was friendships. Friendships is what kept him coming back to KC. He made friends with guys from the other team. It was just the next day you and I had a problem. And the problem is you are on the other side of the football field. But it's amazing to me that yet somehow we still embrace that mentality as if these guys absolutely hated each other when all they really did was want to win. But the most amazing part is that we want that back. And then when somebody steps forward and draws a line in the sand and says, you're either a Brown or you're not, you're on my team or you're not, we begin to jump down his throat and go, see, man, this guy doesn't want to play ball. He's an attitude problem. He's going to be an issue in the locker room. You know, when it comes to being in the locker room, the only thing that I've really, truly had a problem with Baker Mayfield was when he continuously kept saying last year, especially during the last game of the season, he was mic'd up, and he kept saying that he wanted it rocking like it was OU. You got to let go of that. You know, you're not at OU anymore. You're in Cleveland, Ohio. You got to let go of that. But one of the things that Baker Mayfield did that, for whatever reason, he apologized for, and I've still maintained that I believe, I'm not much of a speculator, but I do believe that the word is that the Browns were looking at drafting him. But when he stuck that flag in the middle of the Ohio State football field, the OU flag, I thought that was one of the greatest things I had ever seen. Why? Because the year before, they got blasted by Ohio State in their own backyard, and those guys were all singing as they normally do. They were singing their school spirit song, and, you know, they were doing it at, you know, towards their band. That's what they do. It's a tradition. But he said, to hell with that. And next year when they won in Ohio State, he stuck that flag in the middle of the field, and I didn't feel like he needed to apologize for it. See, stuff like that is different. That's starting a rivalry. This is personal stuff that's going on in the locker room, and I felt like he could have gone to Duke Johnson and said, look, bro, why don't you want to be here? What's going on? Are you with us or against us? Like, what's the scenario, man? Help me to understand why you don't want to be a Brown. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything the team can do? Is there anything the coaches can do? You're just not happy here and you just want to move on no matter what. What is it, bro? But I will say this. I love the mentality of I'm a Cleveland Brown, and I want everybody else to have that same mentality as well. Again, not necessarily a fan of the approach, but I am a fan of the mentality, if that makes sense. Guys, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at DrewDuncan83. When you share this post, don't forget to use the hashtag Don't You Dare Touch That Dial. And, of course, Facebook and Instagram is where the Full Court Press can be found. Don't forget to find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.